For anyone in here, we're gonna start at 3:05 just so people can get in. Since we only have one person outside of our team, we're gonna just wait for like 2 or 3 more minutes. Um,
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. This is our presentation on our scouting app development and then how we analyze our data during competition, dependent from our scouting app. So my name is Gabby Ingrick. I'm our strategy director this year. It is my 3rd year on Walton Robotics. And then outside of strategy, I work with our FLL department. I'm also a part of presentation outreach. I was on JB Build last year. Um, Outside of school, or outside of robotics, I'm sorry. At school, I'm in our STEM engineering academy, and I really like watching books and movies. And a fun fact about me is I did competitive jiu-jitsu for 2 years. It's kind of like wrestling. How I got into FIRST is during middle school, I went to a lot of our girls' FIRST events, and they inspired me to figure out more about engineering. Then I joined our robotics team and the STEM Academy at Walton. And I started off the team thinking I wanted to be our chief programmer, and very quickly realized that's not where I wanted to go. I got involved in presentation and strategy primarily, and this year I am in charge of strategy. So that's kind of how my path through the team.
I'm Ryan Schmelk. I am this year's drive coach, and I am also on strategy and a programmer. This is my second year on the robotics team. I'm a former FTC student and mentor. Um, Other stuff outside of robotics, I'm also in Walton STEM, and my favorite subject is math. And fun fact about me, I've been competing with FIRST since third grade. So I've done FLL through third grade through sixth grade. I have done FCC through seventh through eighth grade, and now I'm on the FRC team.
So as a team, our mission is to help students develop personal and professional skills, inspire students to pursue careers in STEM, and promote STEM as fun, rewarding, and a pathway to a brighter future. Um, it's really important to us to inspire STEM throughout our community. Just like how I mentioned, Girls First really impacted me, introduced me to STEM and engineering, and influenced me to make that my career. Some fun facts about our team is that it is our 17th year this year, and that we've gone to Worlds for the past 12 years in a row. So this is a little bit more about our team. That's our team picture from last year. There's some seniors who graduated that we love in there. You can also see our impact presentation. We really love spirit, like I just said, spreading STEM in our community. That is our robot on the right for this year for Reefscape. We won both of our regionals, and then we also got the opportunity to compete at Worlds last year. And then CanBot is a fun little project that we did a few years ago where we made a can crushing recycling aluminum bot out of an old FRC bot with help from our sponsors, Novellus and Ball. Okay, we only have one participant other than people in Walton Robotics. So if you would like to, you can fill out this form. It's also in the resources sector. If you fill this out, we'll share a demo app with you. And then later we'll run a Reefscape match, and then you can practice using the scouting app if you'd like. We'll give you like 2 or 3 minutes to get that filled out. Okay, we're gonna move on.
So this is we're gonna head into our scouting app and development here. Um, so we use app sheets for scouting, for our scouting app. It is made by Google. It is a no-code platform, so it is pretty easy to use and to kind of understand for many rookies that we run through. It uses data. Uses include data collection and manage workplace. So the timeline of our scouting app, we first used AppSheets in 2023 to 2024. During those years, we kind of imagined it through or processed it from July through November. Starting in December, we started development. We started testing then in May and March, and then we started updates through March through May. So the timeline through 2024 through 2025 is also kind of similar. We began drafting and idealing kind of what we wanted to. And then at the start of January or midway through January, we started developing the app. And then we finished at the end of February. We started testing and improving to get ready for competitions in March. And we've been adding and updating the app ever since through Worlds. So one of the functions in our scouting app is we have competition schedules. We have a robot schedule for matches and robot play, and we also have a member schedule. For the robot schedule, it gathers the information from the Blue Alliance, and an app script program that we have embedded in the thing gathers the schedule from the Blue Alliance with updated matches, and it sends us to the Google Sheets where members can update, and it can be sent through app sheets. And that's kind of where our members kind of see what matches we have. And then for the member schedule, there is a separate Google form or Google Sheet made by our strategy director. It is reconfigured and processed into a thing that kind of makes it alphabetical order. So it kind of matches and pairs up with whoever is supposed to be doing that task. And then it is then updated into member view into their profile. So this is the robot schedule. If you see on the left, that is kind of what it looks like in our Google Sheets. You can click that update button and it kind of runs the app script. That app script will then again take the latest matches from the Blue Alliance. And then to the left of that update button is kind of what it kind of reads and kind of how it processes. And the image on the right is kind of what it looks like in AppSheets. This year is the member schedule. So if you look on the image on the left, that is kind of where all the tasks are placed. You can kind of see the names in the far left column, and then it kind of organizes it through alphabetical order to kind of pair up each task. And then on the right, you can kind of see in the profile section what matches are for scouting. So another function with our scouting app is we have match scouting, pit scouting, cycle time, and even the competition schedules. Our members will answer questions based on the match they scout. So it's simple scouting. And then the pit scouting is kind of when people kind of walk through the pits, take pictures, and we have kind of data collected from there as well. Functions. So on the left, the image on the left is kind of what our data looks like once people input scouting data. You can kind of see it's pretty easy to put into Tableau, which is the sheet we use to kind of process the data as well. But the sheet on the right is kind of what it looks like through the app. That's the form you can scroll through. In that form, there's 3 pages. The first page is kind of scouter's info, kind of your name, and kind of auton as well. The second page is kind of for teleop operations, how many they scored an L4 or L3, or how many algae they processed. And then the final page is for endgame, kind of if they parked or if they climbed deep or shallow, and also any further comments. So the benefits for AppSheets, it automatically uploads to the Google Sheets, the master sheet. It's pretty easy to access offline. It stores data locally in your device, and then when it has data or an internet connection, it'll upload to Google Sheets. And also, there's no background information needed. You don't need to know how to code in order to develop and make updates to the app. So limitations of AppSheets, though, it's very hard to kind of customize to kind of make it more Walton Robotics themed. It's very hard to kind of include graphs and models into it and kind of add pictures and little details that would kind of make it easier and more fun for scouting. And it's also had many connection issues with team members because it can store data within the phone, but most of the time these issues happen with adding it to the Google Sheet as well.
So now we'll kind of dive into the data analysis, what we really do with the data that we collect from our scouting app. So like I just said, we collect all of our data from our scouting app. Occasionally we'll look at public data from other teams, but we like to rely on our scouters since we train them for a reason. Through our scouting app, we get various outputs. So for example, we'll get an integer output for how many pieces of coral were scored on L4. We could get a Boolean output for if they left the starting line. We also have multiple choice responses, like for example, if they shallow climb, deep climb, didn't climb, parked, or were just continued scoring. And then also text. So we really rely on qualitative data a lot, especially when we're using AI. That's what we predominantly use AI for, since we use Tableau for most of our quantitative data, I'm sorry. So we harp on why qualitative data is really important because, for example, if you had a robot who had to press a stop or e-stop during a match, or a robot whose mechanism fell off, the data could look relatively similar. However, an entire mechanism falling off is a bigger issue during, especially when you're close to playoffs. And then also we use qualitative data to explain penalties, if they're repeated penalties or if it was an accident or a one-time occurrence. And then also driver ratings to see if they're missing a lot or if they just drive really slow. That's just data we like to collect to help explain the numbers if needed. So we really like to work on our data accuracy. We harp on how important it is for everyone to pay attention during matches, and we train everyone biannually. So last Wednesday, we had our Reefscape training for grits, so that the rookies can be introduced to scouting in somewhat of a less pressurized environment, since it is just an off-season competition. And then in the spring, around February or early March, we'll train them on the new game. And then, excuse me, we'll train them on the new game so that they'll be ready for regionals, but they already have some experience from scouting for off-season competitions. We also pair up our scouts. So rookie members learn from veteran members. As you can see here, I was paired with Sarth on our team, and we were scouting together so we can talk about what we're seeing to ensure that we have more accurate data. If I missed one coral and Sarth is sure that he saw it, we'll make sure that our data is matching and that we work together while we're scouting. And then this also makes scouting a little bit more fun. Sometimes if you've been sitting in the stands for a little bit, having a partner or having different partners can help make scouting a little bit more fun. We also have scouting trainings that we try to make as fun and engaging as possible. Something that we're doing this year is a scouting competition. So we're trying to evaluate everyone's scouting level by having a competition where top scouters will continue, and then lower scouters, then we know we need to pair them with a better veteran scouter, or we need to assign them more practice, or we can just provide direct feedback to them. So the scouting competition, we're using prizes like sometimes during competitions, our mentors get Starbucks. So buying an additional coffee for our scouters in return for like excitement about scouting and better scouting data. Another aspect that we're including is that we're making it all digital from home. That way, if you want to be on a different department, you can also become really involved with strategy, since everyone everyone has to know how to scout on our team. And then also you can choose when to do it. Sometimes having a meeting after school, especially after a stressful week, it's not really the most exciting to then go decide to scout, but if you choose, you can choose when to do it when it's assigned digitally. And then, so this entire scouting competition prepares our rookies for preliminary scouting, which they will do from home. So the scouting app also, or scouting competition, I'm sorry, helps prepare them to know how to find the resources that they need when they do their preliminary scouting. And then we also just provide additional resources that helps us know if someone's really not the best at qualitative data, then we can give them additional practice and give them tips and tricks instead of just instead of letting them not improve. Okay, so just kind of like what Ryan mentioned earlier, all the data that is collected from the app goes into the master sheet. So usually during competition, I'll have people who are helping me with strategy look through the comments, look through the data, see if there was any abnormality matches. If something happened during the robot, I kind of explain what happened during that robot or during that match, I'm sorry. And then also do match write-ups. So we write summaries about the performance and capabilities of teams. It's just so that later during our post-competition day scouting meeting, we can, instead of looking through all of the data, we can just look at the summary and kind of get a idea of the team. And then if needed, we can go back to and refer to the physical data. Okay, so one thing that we do during the scouting meetings after a competition day is we put our quantitative data into Tableau. So Tableau is made by Salesforce, and it is a data visualization and business intelligence platform. It's used in the real world, so we're teaching our strategy team real skills that they can apply in college and beyond. And so through Tableau, you can create interactive dashboards on a computer, or you can share it through servers, the cloud, or public platforms. And then through Tableau, you can also do data analysis, report, and decision making, which is what we use it for. So we use Tableau over Google Sheets. Our team runs off of Google. However, Tableau, it's easier to create graphs and contrast and compare variables, as well as weigh variables, which is really important when we're analyzing data. It analyzes large data sets more efficiently when you're having lots of entries. That's really important that we can get all the data organized and see it as efficiently as possible. However, it is more complex to learn than Google Sheets or other platforms. So to kind of combat this year, we're having weekly strategy meetings where you're assigned assignments and you have to learn Tableau. For example, right now, the strategy department is working on everyone chooses a data set, and then they're going to present the data set through graphs that they made through Tableau, and then kind of explain what the data means, how the graph is showing it, and then explain choices that they would make based off of the data. And then Google Sheets, it is really accessible with Google, and you can connect it to, for example, our scouting app would give us the information through our master sheet, and we could easily integrate that into a graph. And it's really good for basic data entry. The issue is that the graphing and visualization options are limited compared to Tableau, and it struggles with larger data sets. Okay. So this is kind of why we use our data, how we apply it. So we analyze, report data to create the best strategy during our matches and playoffs. So something that I do is I look at all our scouting data. I see the strengths and weaknesses of the teams that we're playing qualification matches with, and I report that to Drive Coach along with ideas for strategies I might have. That way, when Ryan is creating his match strategy with other teams, he knows, hey, you're better at scoring L4 than we are, so we're going to assign you L4 and we'll work on L3. And this is always a conversation that we're having. It's just for us to get an idea of what we would like to do. And then after a match, we note how well we worked with teams specifically. It's really important that our teams are compatible, especially during playoffs. So that is a huge thing that we mark down. And then just see how complementary we are, which I'll get into in a minute. We also use it during playoffs a little bit. We look at the other teams' capabilities, the other lines, sorry, capabilities, kind of look what to watch out for. We also do this during matches. I just forgot to mention it then. And then we reviewed changes in teams' abilities and communicate with our mentors and strategy team just so that we're all on the same page, especially right before playoffs. It can get kind of stressful and it is challenging to analyze and report multiple qualities. So this year we're going to start working on using star plots. So each star is a single entry. So that means it's like a single team during a match, or it can be a single team during an average match, or like a single team's average amount of scoring for all of their matches in a competition. And they're really useful when you're trying to look at like specific teams. Um, the issue with this is that when you have about 60 teams at a competition, and even if you want to look at their average scores, comparing 60 can be kind of hard. So that's why we categorize our teams so that we can evaluate within the category strengths and weakness of teams in comparison to each other. So the length of each line is a variable, and then the length is the magnitude or the strength. So we can also weigh our variables. And so if, for example, we're predominantly a coral robot, but we can do algae as well. But if we're looking for a robot who scores mostly algae, we would extend the value of an algae robot or algae variables. That way we can just find which robots are the best at algae. So here is kind of a larger scale. This is like the exact ones that we would be using in an FRC situation. I'm gonna go back to the other side for my talking points real quick, but I'll go back to that side in a minute. So they show like robot performance over multiple aspects. So it's really helpful for visual consistency. You don't have to read a ton or look and compare numbers in the data. You can just look at the circle and see what their strengths are. It also helps us see inconsistencies within the data, whether that's through scouting or through the robots or something going wrong with the robot. If a robot is always scoring really high on L4 and then suddenly it barely scores one match, we know that either the scouter might have inputted the wrong robot number or something happened with the robot during that match. And then we can compare performance across other teams and their past performances, and then with specific like alliances that we make up. So the ideal alliance would have the entire shape filled up, except for negative values, but you could just change the negativity. I just didn't do that. So for example, an ideal robot or an ideal alliance here would have L4, L3, L2, all of the everything filled in because they're able to score the maximum ability. Yeah. Okay. So we can take questions. I know we have one in the chat. Oh, this is my email. You can also find our email on Walton Robotics. In 2 years, I am graduating, so this email will not work. So if you're watching this as a recording past 2027, email our team email. But for right now, you can email me. Do we have any questions or are we?